Your stiffness can be dissolved, not managed, not stretched, dissolved in 2 minutes every morning. Most men over 40 accept stiffness as a fixed cost of age. It is not. Stiffness is not a structure, it is a state, and states can be changed. You wake, you swing your legs out of bed, and the body resists. The lower back is tight, the hips are locked. The first steps are stiff, almost mechanical. Within an hour it loosens. By noon you have forgotten it, and tomorrow it returns, exactly the same. This pattern is the clue. Pay attention to it. Why does stiffness get worse after rest, not better? The answer is not in your muscles. It is in a layer most doctors never examine. That layer is called fascia. It is the connective web that wraps every muscle, every organ, every nerve in your body. One continuous sheet, head to heel. For most of medical history, it was discarded. Surgeons cut through it to reach what they considered the real anatomy. It was packing material, nothing more. That changed in 2007. The first International Fascia Research Congress convened at Harvard Medical School. For the first time, fascia was studied as an organ in its own right. A sensory organ, a structural organ, a system that moves, hydrates, and ages on its own terms. The ancient Indian anatomists never made this mistake. They had already named this web. They called it the connective sheath of life force, the prana kosha, the layer through which vital energy moves, or fails to move. Modern myofascial science is now mapping what they described in different language. The yogis had a precise name for this tissue, and they engineered an exact sequence to dissolve what forms inside it overnight. Here is the mechanism. Fascia is not solid. It is a living gel, saturated with water and a substance the tissue produces to keep its layers gliding. After 40, two things change. The tissue holds less water, and it produces less of that lubricating ground substance. The fascia begins to densify. The collagen fibers, once free to slide, start to cross-link and crystallize. The glide is lost. Now add sleep. For 7 or 8 hours you lie still. Fascia is hydrated by movement, by the gentle oscillation that pumps fluid through it. Remove the movement and the gel compresses. The water redistributes away. By morning the tissue is dense, dehydrated, and gripping. That is your morning stiffness. Not your muscles. Your fascia, crystallized in the night. There is a 2-minute biological window every morning where this dissolution is most possible. Most men over 40 waste it every single day. Before we go further, scan your lower back right now. Is there a dull, deep pull? Not muscular, deeper than that. That is your fascia speaking. Hold that awareness. This is why stiffness worsens after rest. Rest is precisely when the tissue dehydrates. Movement is what restores it. Your body is not betraying you. It is following a chemistry it has always followed. You were simply never taught the rule. Now we confront the mistake almost everyone makes: the stretch. You feel tight, so you stretch. You hold. And for a moment, it feels better. But the stiffness returns, always returns. Because static stretching alone does not address what fascia actually responds to. Fascia does not respond to holding. It responds to oscillation, to rhythmic wave-like movement that pumps fluid through the tissue and reorganizes its fibers. Hold a stretch and you lengthen muscle. Oscillate through the tissue and you rehydrate fascia. These are two different events in two different layers. A 2012 investigation tracked fascial fluid content under load. After stretch, the tissue lost water. But in recovery, water flooded back in, higher than where it started. The tissue overcompensated. Fascia responds to a cycle of load and release, not to a sustained hold. The yogis understood the principle without the instruments. They engineered movement that locks the base of the pelvis, then sends a wave up the spine. The lock generates internal pressure. The wave drives that pressure through the fascial sheath. Together they squeeze and flood the tissue, a biological pump performed by the body on itself. A controlled trial treated fascia with movement rather than static stretch. Range of motion increased. Strength did not decline. The change was in the fascia, not the muscle. So why does this fade after 40? Two reasons. First, collagen cross-linking. Rigid bonds form between fibers, locking the tissue. Second, the body produces less ground substance, the moisture-holding gel that keeps layers sliding. Less lubricant, more crystallization. The web stiffens by chemistry, not injury. This is the biological betrayal. The tissue that should keep you fluid begins, with age, to cement itself. But cement laid down by chemistry can be dissolved by chemistry. That is what comes next. The yogis had a precise name for this tissue, and they engineered an exact sequence to dissolve what forms inside it overnight. That sequence is what you are about to learn. The 2-minute ancient protocol. This is the practice. 2 movements performed together. A spinal wave drawn from Chakravakasana, the ancient cat-cow form, combined with Mula Bandha, the root lock. The wave moves the fluid. The lock generates the pressure. Follow precisely. Come onto your hands and knees, wrists directly beneath your shoulders, knees directly beneath your hips, spine neutral and long. Breathe once, slowly, and settle. Now find the base. Draw the muscles of the pelvic floor gently upward and inward, a subtle lift, as if drawing energy up from the floor of the body. That is Mula Bandha, the root lock. Do not strain it, hold it light. This is the seal that builds pressure inside the sheath. Begin the wave. As you inhale, feel the base of your sacrum. Draw it gently toward the floor as the wave moves upward through L4, L5, into the thoracic spine. Let the belly drop. Let the chest open. The wave travels from the tailbone to the crown. As you exhale, reverse it. Tuck the sacrum under, round the lower back. Send the wave the other way, drawing the navel toward the spine, lifting through the mid-back, releasing the head last. 1 inhale, 1 exhale, 1 complete oscillation. Slow, deliberate. Keep the root lock engaged throughout. Feel the pressure build at the base with each pass. That pressure is not metaphor. It is fluid being driven through the fascial web, the pump the yogis engineered, working exactly as designed. Continue the wave. 10 slow cycles. Feel each vertebra move in sequence. Sacrum, lumbar, thoracic, cervical. Never force. Let the spine flow like water moving through a channel. With every cycle, the tissue is being squeezed and flooded, squeezed and flooded. Researchers have confirmed that collagen, the core fiber of fascia, carries a piezoelectric charge. Place it under mechanical stress and it generates a small electrical field. Movement is not only mechanical, it is electrical. Each oscillation of the wave loads the fibers and stirs that charge through the tissue. Pause here. Feel the base of your spine. Something should feel different already. Warmer, slightly looser. That is piezoelectric charge rebuilding inside the tissue. That is your fascia remembering how to move. This is the dissolution. Not a stretch you endure, a wave you generate. 2 minutes of this every morning while the tissue is most receptive. The lock builds the pressure. The wave moves the fluid. The charge stirs the fibers. The crystallization of the night begins to break. What you just did does not end when the movement ends. It opens a window. In the hours after this practice, fascia begins to reorganize. The fibers, stirred loose, realign along the lines of healthy glide. You moved for 2 minutes. The tissue keeps working for hours. And the timing is not arbitrary. Connective tissue runs on a circadian clock. A 2020 study found a precise rhythm. Collagen synthesized on one schedule, assembled on another, tied to the cycle of sleep and waking. Disrupt that clock, and it grows disorganized. Your fascia is not timeless, it is scheduled. This is why morning matters. You wake at the hinge of that cycle, the tissue freshly compressed by the night, primed to respond to the first movement it receives. The fascia is ready to be flooded, ready to realign. Most men miss it entirely. They wake and reach for coffee before they reach for movement. They spend the most responsive window of the day sitting still, letting the crystallization set further. The window closes. The stiffness wins. And tomorrow, it begins again. You now have the alternative. 2 minutes, before the coffee, while the tissue is listening. Check in one more time. Same lower back, same body. Different signal? That shift is not placebo. That is biology. Return to where we began. Your stiffness is not a structure. It is a state. A chemistry problem in a living web of tissue. Dehydration, crystallization, lost glide. All reversible. The yogis engineered the solution in the language of locks and waves. Modern science confirmed it in the language of fascia and charge. You now hold both. Comment "dissolved" below if you felt a shift during that practice.